Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 102. I got a little messed up there. I'm not used to saying 102, 102. We're getting up there.
It's a lot of numbers.
We're getting up there. We're in Fortaleza, Brazil. John Morgan here. Cole Coffey is not with us, unfortunately. He is going on vacation tomorrow, so he did not make the trip down to Brazil. But if we're in Brazil, of course, Fernanda Prates, our Brazilian reporter, is going to be sitting around and hanging out and talking some MMA. How you doing?
I'm good. No frosty beverages for us today.
Well, I know, and that's a problem, but it's kind of the situation where we're in. We're kind of isolated over here, so frosty beverages will be consumed.
Just not right now.
Not right now. We have been grinding all day long. I'm not lying. I'm on about 90 minutes of sleep. You are on about probably 90 minutes of non-hungoverness at this point, so it's been a rough day.
Yeah, but we got through it.
We got through it. UFC Fight Night 106, Belfort versus Gastelum. Back in Brazil, it's been a while. It's actually been. I feel like back when we were coming down here like 7 times a year. I feel like I was down here like every 3 or 4 weeks or so.
The last one was São Paulo.
Yeah.
When was that?
November, I think. Yeah, 4 months. So this is event number 28 in Brazil. I've been to 27 of them. I just didn't go to the one way back in the day. But I did talk to our man John Anik earlier today. I think he's been to like 21 or 22 of them. So he's damn near Brazilian at this point.
Yep.
In fact, he said to you that at some point he wants to get the Brazilian flag tattooed on his body.
Yep. He did say that. He said he got protective of the country too.
Right?
So we need footage of that. That's all I'm saying.
He's starting to get a little Brazilian as well. And he's liking tattoos. He gets that 209 thing on there, and now he wants to start, loading
That's how
up.
it starts. The tattoo itch. That's how it starts. You get the first one, and then done.
He's got it. So if you hear him making any bets, he's basically throwing the bet so that he can get
the
a flag.
tattoo.
Yep.
We could get him drunk and convince him to get the tattoo.
That'd be easy enough.
That would be easy enough.
John Anik and Brian Stan going to be calling the fights on Saturday night. I bet if you could find a little bit of weed, he might get a man's been known to toke a little bit here and there. All right, so we're in Fortaleza. Second time in Fortaleza. Always anytime we're down here, I like to ask you kind of a little bit about where we are and what we're doing. Interesting, I guess, to note that the last time we were here, I think, was like 2013. That was Verdum and Big Nog.
Yeah.
The Ultimate Fighter Brazil 2. Great night of fights, if you remember. I think there were like 7 or 8 submissions on the card. It was phenomenal, but it was hot as hell.
Dude, remember Brian sweating
Yes.
through his suit? It was just... I remember specifically the Americans being completely destroyed and miserable.
Yeah, it was, because it's we're basically like right on the equator here. We're on the northeast part of Brazil. We're basically like right on the equator. It's not really that hot if you just look at like raw temperature. Like I think it says it's like 85 degrees, like all year long. But it's like 85% humidity too. And there's something about the sun that's just
you're just sweating all the
it's
time.
Right there.
You got that glow around you all the time.
Yeah, it's brutal. But this one, we're in a brand new arena, like literally, which I don't understand this. It was built for the Olympics, which, as best I know, were held in Rio de Janeiro.
That's exactly it.
But I guess this was like supposed to be some kind of training facility, although, as I was told, it was actually delivered late to the government or something like that.
That's Brazil for you right there.
Brazil at its finest, right? But it is supposed to have air conditioning. I think they're actually installing the air conditioning right now. Like, it's literally still being built, but so hopefully it won't be just miserable on fight night like it was. The fighters had to be miserable that night in 2013 with the lights, because it's already hot under those lights anyway, and as bad as it was, so we don't have to deal with that this time around.
I can only imagine. To me, I have a problem that I forget everything that happens. Like, I barely remember that night. I remember Leo Santos. It was when he beat
Patolino,
and then he watched the fight with Santiago after it.
That's right.
Like, a few things stand out for me in that event in particular.
That was a fun night. It was a lot of finishes, so hopefully we get something like that. Always ask you about like Brazilian politics and things like that. It's funny because I feel like when we were coming down here all the time, and also I guess like the World Cup, the Olympics, I feel like Brazilian politics, Brazilian policies were like part of American news, to be honest with you, because so much of the world was focusing on Brazil.
Yeah.
But I guess A, those things are gone, and B, we've kind of got our own political problems right now.
You guys are dealing with quite the situation out there. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
So, are things any better now financially? Are things? I mean, I know it was kind of it's been a recession, and that's kind of been an impact. Is it any better?
It's still a clusterfuck, and after they ousted the democratically elected president for no reason, essentially a coup, which was gross. Temer, the vice president, he took her place and he started like passing these measures that make people have a harder time retiring, like just everything that benefits the rich and just fucks the poor even further. So it's kind of like it's a bad spot we're in. And this guy called Bolsonaro, who is basically our version of a Fox News guy, but like on steroids. He racist, misogynist, homophobic, disgusting, like the worst type of person that you can ever imagine. He is probably gonna run for president, so it's kind of like, yeah, I might not be hanging around here for much longer.
Wow.
I'm thinking about Canada, Trudeau, those dreamy eyes.
They welcome people with open arms. Nice set of hair.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. I mean, the UFC, we know the UFC is coming back in June. It sounds like they're going to be one more event later in the year, too. So another 3 events this year. I mean, I guess as long
another
as
3 or another
no,
two?
I mean three in the year total. So, I don't know. I guess as long as Global is writing the checks, they're going to still keep coming down here. But
no, I don't think it's economically that it's a problem to people hosting events here. I mean, I don't see that big of a difference.
Sounds like I heard they've already sold like 12,000 tickets. That's solid for a fight night. 12,000 seats. And they got a few more to go. That's solid.
But you got like 2 big names though.
You do. All right. So I guess let's get into that real quick. Vitor Belfort versus Kelvin Gastelum. I guess first of all, did you just like scratch your head when they announced this fight? Like, what the hell?
I think we all did. It was kind of like, well, Gastelum asked for him, right after the press conference, and we later found out that he was pretty much aware that Vitor needed an opponent for here, and for him, it makes all the sense in the world. Like, he's gonna fight a guy who's not at his prime, who he matches up well against, who's just pretty much a big step up if he does beat Vitor. But for Vitor to take this fight, it's kind of, I don't know. I think we all kind of wondered what will it do for him? Because I feel like a lot of us were thinking is that, well, Vitor, another title run, it's pretty much out of the question at this point. So I would figure that he would take big fights, that he would take Dan Henderson's and things like that, fights that will not necessarily mean anything when it comes to records, but that will draw attention, and then he first was going to face Brunson and then Gastelum. So it's kind of like, but then Anderson fought Brunson.
True.
And then Jacare is fighting Whitaker, so nothing makes sense anymore in the world.
Well, at least Jacare and Whitaker is like 2 like ranked people. I mean, Whitaker's on a nice little run. He's kind of like that name that everybody forgets, and I don't know if his name necessarily belongs along those top guys right now, but he's on a nice little run. But yeah, this fight's weird, and you're right. For Kelvin Gastelum, it makes all the sense in the world, right? I mean, this is a chance to really get your name over, and
if he loses, he can just come back down and like nothing happened.
Going to 170 anyway. So it makes all the sense in the world for Kevin, but it doesn't make sense for Vitor. But I respect him, I guess, for taking it. I haven't seen our staff picks yet, but I think pretty much everybody's picking Kelvin.
Everybody
right?
picked Gastelum.
Every single person on our staff picked. Okay, so and we've seen, we were looking at the odds earlier this week. He's the biggest favorite on the card.
Yeah.
What about the Brazilian media? What's the conversation? I feel like usually they're pretty realistic about their guys' chances. I remember, for instance, the Maldonado fight with Stipe, where everybody was just like,
well, but that was kind of an extreme example that you're giving right here.
At least nobody was like, yeah, this could be a great
fight. But even when Verdun fought Fedor, it was kind of like nobody thought Verdun was going to win.
So what's the feeling among your cohorts here in Brazil?
Honestly, I think that it's kind of, and we were talking about this, I think not a lot of people are like, Gastelum is for sure winning this one.
Right. That's true.
I think it's kind of like everybody's picking him, but like, kind of picking him at the same time. So I get that feeling. And when I ask, and I get asked, because people are like, who's taking this one? It's kind of like, because especially after we saw today how much bigger Vitor looks.
Dude.
It's scary. Like, it's a big difference. Because we had seen
the pictures from the on sale, but those were just provided to us by the UFC. And you didn't know, like, were they standing on, like, unlevel ground, or, like, was the camera in a weird, like, what's going on?
I mean, you get that. There was the video, and you could kind of see that already. But I guess seeing it live is kind of,
pretty
that
nutty.
has that impact.
And Vitor still, I mean, and I think that's the thing, is everybody's breaking it down, that it doesn't take a rocket scientist, it doesn't take a professional MMA journalist to say, Vitor is dangerous in the first round. I mean, right? Like, even, you got Villante out here as Weidman's buddy saying, this guy's dangerous. Like, I saw what he did to Weidman in the first round. You know what I mean? Like, he is dangerous early on.
That's the thing. And we know Kelvin is saying things, and people say things to promote fights and stuff like that. So we know that that's the thing that happens. And he's talking about getting a knockout. Like, my one concern would be for him to opening himself up to a situation where he doesn't want to be.
Right.
But I don't think he's gonna do that. I think he's a smart guy. He's been able to prove everybody wrong consistently all the time by being clever, so I don't think he's going to be dumb about this one.
You had a chance to talk to Vitor earlier in the week, and I was the cameraman this week. I was doing my best cold coffee impersonation, trying to act like I know what I'm doing with the video camera, which I definitely do not. But I will say that Vitor is always very reflective, and of course he's got his cliches, but he's kind of a motivational speaker type guy or whatever. Kind of makes you feel whatever. But I will say, man, you asking him when he's thinking about retirement, of course he's heard it before. I think this is honestly one of the first times I've ever heard him say soon.
And remember, then I tried to follow up, and then he didn't really it was a weird moment right there, because he said soon, like, out of the blue.
Like, maybe it slipped. Like, he didn't mean to say it.
And then when I got back to it, but, like, are you, like, trying to delicately reintroduce the subject, and he just like, oh no, I'm feeling okay, I'm fine, maybe I'll fight the legends and the youngsters so it's kind of like, I was kind of confused by the situation. I don't know if the soon was it seemed like it was him saying, at first I thought it was maybe referring to people retiring him,
right?
But I'm pretty sure that it was him saying
I think so too. I mean,
and he's talking about the second journey, like, it's something that it's interesting. I mean, I don't even know how he does it. It's so long. 20 years. I'm 27.
20 years, his UFC debut. That's crazy.
And and we know that it's about more than just fighting. Fighting is easy. It's something that they'll do eventually, but they do every now and then. But it's kind of like the weight. He's never had problems making weight. And we know that his issues with the hormones for whatever reason, but he does have a hormonal imbalance and things like that, and things he has to overcome in training now. And I think why that is besides the point at this point. But we know that he's been through so much already in his career, and to me, just to keep motivated to do it, like, it's crazy to me.
This has to be like a key fight, because I mean, from all indications, he's wealthy, right? I mean, I'm not saying like Bill Gates money or whatever, but I mean, he's good. He doesn't need to keep
set for
fighting.
life, I'm sure.
His wife made a lot of money in her professional career as well, right? I mean,
I don't even know. I don't think so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She was just famous, but not really.
She was
cashed in
really
on it.
famous, but I don't really think she capitalized on it.
He seems to have done good. He seems to have invested, and he seems to, like, I don't think he has to fight, but if he goes out there and loses to Kelvin Gastelum, and I'm not trying to disrespect Kelvin Gastelum, but it's kind of like, had Anderson lost to Brunson, it's like, now you're talking about legends losing to guys that, as he said, when I was champion, Kelvin was 4 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, if he loses to Kelvin, maybe that's it, or close to it.
It could be it. I don't know. I mean, we never know with him. Like, if he loses and comes out and says, I'm retiring, this is my last fight, I'm not going to be surprised.
Right.
And if he, like, calls out the champion, the heavyweight champion, I'm not going to be surprised. Like, it's Vitor.
That's true.
We've come to expect whatever from him. So, but I totally agree with you. I just think that it's one thing when you lose to Jacare, and it's one thing when you lose to Mousasi, and it's one thing when you lose to John Jones.
Yeah, you're losing to top 5 guys.
Yep. And then it's quite different when you lose to a guy who's much smaller than you.
Yep.
By the way, who's just coming up again. So it's kind of like, I think a loss there will really make him think.
Would the Anderson fight still be on the table? Like if he lost, I mean, is that a fight people still want to see?
Oh, for sure. I keep saying that. Like
Yeah.
I don't know one of the two doesn't want that fight. I can only think that's
Because it would
what
have happened by
happens.
now if they wanted it.
I mean, I'll say this. You know me, I never say things like very incisively,
Right.
but this one, I'll say, I'll be very assertive. This would be a huge fight, no matter how bad they are in their careers. Like, it's not going to be the same,
Right.
obviously, but if they do this fight in Brazil, it's a huge deal.
It's interesting because I mean, we're just talking about so many fights ahead, but I mean, if Anderson or if George St. Pierre beats Michael Bisping,
Yeah.
you got to think that George wants to fight Anderson, right? That super fight that never
Yeah.
happened. Because I mean, George, again, not to take anything away from George St. Pierre, but if he happens to beat Bisping, then you're talking about Jacare, Romero, Weidman.
Yeah.
Like those dudes are huge. You know what I mean? Not that Anderson's not, but I think George would probably think that's a lesser version of Anderson Silva.
I
This
don't
would be
think
the time to
anybody
fight
wants
him.
to fight Romero ever.
No, hell no.
Like that's the thing. I think that's like the common thread there. Nobody that has already gotten someplace wants to fight him because why? It's just an annoying game. A difficult guy that will annul you. He won't really give you an opportunity to shine in your fight. He's not going to give you money. He's not a big draw. So
Right.
it's kind of like, what do you have to win by beating Yoel Romero? He's the only guy who has anything to win there, And I feel like it's the same situation with Jacare.
Yeah,
Because he's a dangerous opponent
incredibly
who
dangerous.
makes sense for us here in Brazil, but I don't think he's a draw either. So it's kind of like it's a situation where you have very little to gain,
Yep. I agree. Well, it's interesting. I hate to think. I mean, I never like to write the book on somebody or send somebody out of the sport, but I do feel like this is one of those nights where we might nobody's really thinking about it being Vitor's last fight, but it could turn out to be his last fight. All right, let's let everybody else weigh in and see what they think. I wanted to play your interview with Vitor Belfort since I didn't really do any interviews this week, which is a big change of pace for me. But hey, a little change is nice every now and then. So here's Fernanda speaking with the phenom Vitor Belfort.
So Vitor, the big thing, 20-year anniversary. How is that for you? How is that just thinking about 2 decades since you started in the UFC, not even your career altogether? So how is it, that feeling?
It is a tremendous gift from God, to be able to still perform in a high level and be relevant in the sport. For me, it is amazing. So I was just making some interview and we were talking when I was champion with 19 years old. Calvin was 4 years old, turning 5. So it's pretty cool.
And that was my next question since you brought it up. Gaslam, a much younger opponent. And I think a lot of people were kind of surprised when they announced the matchup because you were coming in from fights against big names. And then again, Gaslam, who's doing well, but still he doesn't really carry the weight of some of your opponents. When did you first hear who Gaslam was, about his name? When did you first pay attention to him?
I can't remember, but
Yeah.
he's one of the young guns,
Yeah.
He's for sure he's pretty relevant still, and I think he's going to have a bright future. But this Saturday is going to be my Saturday.
And you had mentioned that before Brunson was offered to you.
Yes, was offered, but he turned down.
Yeah.
And then Gasly step up.
And you took that fight with Brunson.
Yeah.
So at this point for you, it doesn't really matter the weight of the name.
I want to fight guys that are relevant. I just don't want to fight fights that. I don't want to pick fights that have probably, because now fighters are picking fights that get probability to win. 40s. They almost like this sport has become not like it used to be before.
Yeah.
So now fighters are taking fights that, I think I can win this guy. No, this guy I can't. I don't have. So I think I'm the older generation where we want to make the fans happy with fights and fights that brings a challenge and Calvin is a guy who brings the challenge.
You've talked a lot about how your name is already in history. You've done so much already. But coming into this fight on a skid, because you've lost your last two big names, but they were losses. Does that carry any weight for you? Is there anything at stake, or do you feel like there's really not that big of a pressure to win anymore?
It's when you come a mindset. People are very critical about themselves. People today, they live in the past or in the future.
Yeah.
That's a big problem of human nature. So I'm enjoying the moment. Nothing I can do about it. Things that happened before, but that doesn't mean it's gonna keep the same. So the problem with human nature is like people are afraid to take risks. Oh, I fell. Oh, I'm not gonna take risk anymore. No, I fell. I'm taking another risk. What's the difference between fail 3 times, 2 times, 4 times, 5 times? That's if you see history, people that fail the most is the most successful people. So I encourage people to take risk and don't be afraid. Just enjoy life.
How is your mindset since you talked about it? You've been talking about the need to rekindle a flame and just really light that up inside you again.
Because that's the only way you can fight. That's the only way you're going to compete. If you have a flame, if you have a fire, if you have a competition in you that's what makes you a fighter. You cannot try to, a lot of people are trying to become involved with the promotion, with the fame. I don't even thinking about that anymore because I've been doing this for so long. So, and you see, names are changing. People that do headlines are going to change. But people that have relevant for years in making a headline, that show the constants. I'm a contest, constant being a headline. So for me, it's a pleasure. I don't need to become a persona to sell arenas, to sell fights. I am who I am. I make mistakes. I recognize my mistakes. And that's how you live. That's how you connect with people.
But how do you keep motivated for over 20 years?
That's a secret. Pretty soon I'm gonna make a book, and you guys buy the book. So I'll make a book. How to keep the flame.
Yeah. Okay. Do we get signed copies of how to keep a flame alive?
It's being written down.
Yeah. Really? Right?
Yeah. I'm written down a book about things that makes me who I am. Because people connect with who you are.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a Muslim, you're a Christian, you're just human beings connect with human beings. We have the same feelings. I believe that God is the same.
Yeah.
God looks the children all the same. I have 3 children. They think totally different. I love them the same. So I think it's be connected with human beings, loving people, understanding them and respecting them. That's the most important thing.
And moving forward, I think obviously you're always going to hear that when you're going to retire. It's a common conversation, but that's not.
Soon.
That's all. That's what I was going to just ask you. Not that, but you've done so much and you've lived through so much.
So my second journey is being already sitting down. I'm creating a new program for fitness for regular people. I want to give back. It's like how I can give back for people that really. I see human beings like today. They're dying young. They are not living well. They have anxiety, and I want to be able to give back to them. So one of the things I'm doing, I'm creating a new fitness program that we're going to open a blocks of change of gyms. Now open to regular people, and I have a new program. I have gyms. I have different things. I have different ideas. I have even one idea I want to present for UFC. It's like creating a new league inside the UFC. We need something new. I can see now these new owners. They want to create something new. It's a lot of changing, but they didn't happen to change that I have in mind. So what I want to propose to them is creating a league inside the UFC, the Legend League. So we can bring back these retired people, bring back to the game and sell more tickets, give more opportunities for they can make more revenue. And of course, when you generate more revenue, you create a more, imagine bringing the legend, legends like Chuck Liddell or Brian Stan, bring them back. And how you do that, create a new rule. Maybe a little big glove, no elbows, no knees, more time to rest, less time to fight. So you create rules that you can bring back this generation. Just like NBA are doing now, they're creating a game with 3 guys in the court. So it's a lot of things can happen. And so my second journey is going to be bigger than because I have brains, I still have some left. So I want to be able to make the fans happy and give them what they need, not just entertain them, but give them a pleasure to see legends. I think that's what they love to do, Why just retire them? Bring them back. You know, you can have guys fighting until their 50s. You know.
As long as they're fighting each other, you mean, not fighting
until they're 50 years old. You know, like you create new rules, a new regulation. You add the platform. It's already, the octagon is there. So creating a new rule, that would be awesome. I want to see them back.
So your second stage would be just.
Who knows? Who knows? I have brains. Like, you know, I have ideas. I have a lot of people, a lot of things, a lot of projects. This is one of the projects that I have. Why not create this in the UFC? You know, I can lead that. You know, we can make a title fight between me and one of the legends, and that can be a new program in the UFC.
But as it stands, you're fighting younger guys like
Kevin Gastelum. We can fight both.
Yeah.
Why not?
All right, so that was Vitor Belfort. I'm not saying it's his last fight, but maybe it is. Fernanda, I want to ask you this. The whole Legends League thing, right? Not a new concept. The International Fight League did it. They had Legends. I mean, that was a huge success.
Vitor himself has been talking about it forever.
Vitor's been talking about it forever. Maybe it was just the mood that I was in. Maybe it was just something going on with that. Maybe it's because I was listening to things differently because I was a cameraman instead of a reporter. I don't know what it was. Because all in all, I'm not going to lie, it sounds like a stupid idea to me, right? Old people fighting, like, you know, it's kind of a weird time in the sport where we know, like, WME, hell, we just had conversations a few hours ago with people here on the ground that were like, yeah, we're kind of struggling right now. We know they need headliners. And it's, I can't believe I'm kind of, now my mood's different. It sounds stupid again. But I don't know, at the moment he said it, I was like, maybe they would do something like, I mean, I doubt they would call a whole, like, Legends League or whatever, but I mean, the point he makes is, like, it's kind of like the Bellator fight with Chael Sonnen and Tito Ortiz. I mean, people cared about it because they're names that people know, and it wasn't a fight that mattered. So, I mean, it still sounds so bizarre, but I kind of wonder, like, is there any validity to it at all that they could bring people back? I mean, I don't even know who, like, what, Marco Huha's coming back or something. I don't know.
Dude, they talk about it.
I know.
And that's the thing. Like, you hear Ray Sefo talking about how he would come. Like, that's the thing. Like, we tend to think that these guys wouldn't want to go back, but and you know me, like, I think the idea is ridiculous, but at the same time,
people would tune in.
We see ridiculous things happening all the time. So
fair point there.
No, I mean, I don't like it because it sounds dangerous to me.
Yes.
I don't like the idea of getting Chuck Liddell to come out of whatever it is that he's doing,
right?
To fight. But at the same time, I think they would be more comfortable with fighting other older people.
And it sounds like he was thinking about it, right? He said, bigger gloves, no elbows, more rest time in between rounds.
That's such an old person thing. Like, less fighting, more.
Hold on. Let me catch my breath. Like, I'm going to kill these people. I don't understand. Whoever the hell keeps ringing the fucking... We're not coming to the door right now. That's all there is to it. Jesus Christ. All right. Throwing me off my game. That's like the 5th time it's wrong in the first segment here. It's insane. Okay. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we're just deciding it's crazy.
I mean, a league, it's so hard to even comprehend the concept or just, like, think logistically how that would happen, and how many people would be up for it, enough to grant a league. I do like the idea that if an older guy is coming back, he's fighting another older guy. But then he said, well, maybe fight.
Well, that's where he lost me, too. It's like it didn't stick to his guns of, like, just old guys fighting old guys. It's like, and then the old guy could fight the young guy champion. They're like, no, that's what we're trying to avoid.
I'm trying to help him out, though. You saw it.
It was funny.
I was kind of like, as long as they're fighting each other, right?
That's pretty funny. All right, let's talk about Kevin Gastelum. Interesting. He's not cutting weight. But he's not necessarily in the best of moods either. The funny story we're sitting in the press room and we're waiting to do our interview with Kelvin Gastelum. He's got to do a couple before ours, and he's doing a Skype interview. But I guess they set up the computer and they set up the Skype so that they could see him, but he couldn't see them because I guess what they were saying was the bandwidth, cut one side of the video. So he had no idea that
he was being, like, seen.
He's literally
so he's like like over the computer, like slouching over the computer, like holding his head, looking bored, like looking bored. That's the like he looked like there was like he would rather be doing anything than be doing that.
And then finally, I don't know what
I don't know
prompted him.
what
Like all of a sudden, he's
triggered
like,
it.
"Oh
Yeah.
wait, you can see me."
That was it. Like we couldn't hear the. Oh my god, I didn't know. And then they started over. And
They
then he
started the
actually
interview
gave
over.
better answers.
He
I think
did.
he was kind of like startled by the situation.
That was fantastic.
But it was hilarious.
Now, it's weird because he's not cutting weight, so there's no reason for him to be miserable. And I'm not saying, I mean, he was polite to us and cordial, and the interview you did with him was fine. And he did say, and we watched it firsthand, that, hey, one thing that people might not realize is,
I'm doing stuff in 3 languages.
I'm doing English interviews, Spanish interviews, and Portuguese interviews. And so that means, like, I'm tripling up on the amount of stuff that I have to do. And that's kind of
true.
interesting.
That's fair because I had never stopped to think about it. But then that's the thing. He can do stuff for TV there. And obviously they brought Nash. Like they have the PR people from there. Like
Right.
he's such a big deal that they actually, want to facilitate that. So he's obviously a big deal there. So he's doing all these Skype and phone interviews there. And then he has to do it for the US and then for us. And then he speaks a little Portuguese, so they're making him do interviews.
Said his
in
Portuguese is pretty good, right?
I mean, he mixes it with Spanish, but it's fine. It's completely understandable. And he started doing the singing thing, and we are suckers for that.
What is that about?
Yeah, because like he he made the mistake of letting people know that he liked Wesley Safadão. Wesley Safadão, I can't even. Brazil is not for beginners, guys. I cannot even explain Wesley Safadão. He's a pop artist,
Right.
but he started out at this very regional, like very tacky thing, and he grew into a pop phenomenon. But it's kind of like.
Somehow Kelvin Gastelum was exposed.
And then Gaslam was like, "Oh, I like Wesley Safadão. He's saying something." So, and that's like he just won people over because when he was here for the media day, he was in completely different spirits.
Right.
I wasn't here, but I was watching everything, and I talked to him on the
I think
phone.
he gets tense on fight week. Like
That's also like fair.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you have to step into a cage with another man trying to knock you unconscious, right?
For sure, and you're not in your country, and you traveled forever, and that was the time too. I think he was sleepy because he said it. He was like, "It's been rough." Like he didn't even lie.
Trouble adjusting. Yeah, which I guess, typical of these Brazil shows. That main event. Let's see, what time will the main event go off? About 3 in the morning, 2:33 in the morning. By the time they walk to the cage,
guys.
so
it's kind of like you could see, and I liked his honesty because I was like, "How has it been?" It's like, it's rough. The first day was hell, and he even said he even joked.
I was thinking about pulling out.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I wasn't like immediately. So I mean, I get it. I completely get it. Like you said, he was polite, but you could really see his spirits were not, the best. Especially because when I spoke to him on the phone, like he gave me an amazing interview not that long ago. So it's kind of like you could see the contrast.
Big night for him, man. He beats Vitor Belfort, and he takes a big step forward. It's so I'm not gonna. I remember meeting. So when I met Kelvin Gastelum, that was back when we were still allowed to do interviews with the Ultimate Fighter contestants before the season started. And I remember, like, I interviewed the entire cast, and like Kelvin was super nice, but I'm like, this dude has no chance. Like this dude is literally gonna be the first guy out of the house. There's no way.
And he knows everybody felt that way.
Yep.
The first time I talked to him, and I asked like, how important was it for him to fight Vitor Belfort, and it's like, it's very important because nobody ever thought I was going to be here. Like, nobody ever thought I was going to be anywhere. I was the last one to be picked. I was like the underdog. I was the underdog again. Like, I kept being underestimated my entire life. So for him, just being here is an achievement in itself. But it's interesting. And I think he knows that. I know he knows that. So it must taste very special for him.
Crazy. All right, I do want to talk about some of the rest of the card, but I got to get your thoughts on this because it's been kind of funny. We've watched it play out. Big story this week. Steven Morocco speaking with Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson saying, found out that, he was paid less than half not less than half. He wasn't paid his show money. I guess it was a little less than half of his show money. What we thought. The $250,000 that he was supposed to get for his fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov, and we find out that he probably got a little bit over 100. It's been weird because I've been like talking to managers and like there's a lot of rumbling going on right now. I think people are like tripping out about this a little bit, that nobody knew you could do that. The UFC could just kind of change the pay. And now everybody's going through the contracts and realizing all this time that we've all just assumed if you make weight and your opponent doesn't make weight, you get your show money. That's not necessarily the case anymore. I think people are kind of freaking out a little bit from the people I've talked to.
But to be perfectly honest, I always thought that was the case because like they always like explicitly said we're giving him his show money. And I always, in my head, it was always like if it was a contract thing,
why would they even address it?
It would be implied. So to me, it was always, obviously I have never read the contract, but in my head looking at it, I always just felt like it was really something extra that they did.
Right.
Something, I'm not going to say nice. The guy spent money, and that's the thing, the little important bit. You spend money, you invest on your camp. You spend you have to pay trainers and managers. You have to pay for traveling. You have to, it's a lot of money. Can you imagine you do that? You invest in your job for like 3 months and then, oh no pay. We're not going to pay you.
No, it's crazy. That is the hard. It's such a weird thing because I see both points of view. Like I definitely see from the UFC because the best I could find out when he fought Barbosa in December, Tony Ferguson, he made 50 and 50. So he made $100,000, 50 and 50. He's fought twice since then in places that didn't divulge information, South Dakota and Mexico. So we don't know what he got paid. So I don't know exactly where it's
the same thing.
around the same. So I'm assuming at this point he's maybe around like 60 and 60 or 70 and 70, somewhere around there, right? So they gave him $100,000 or a little bit more than $100,000, which from the UFC's point of view, I guess they can say like, hey man, we feel like we're doing you a solid, and they have an argument like the reason he was getting $250 was because
it was a championship
fight. Championship fight goes away. Now you're getting this amount of money, and I can see that they're kind of fair. I mean, the UFC definitely lost money. I mean, that was the main event, right? We all said that was the main event. It was gone. So I feel like the UFC feels like they're doing the right thing, but like you're saying, Tony's got to feel like he's getting dicked over. You know what I mean? Like, how's it my fault that this guy didn't make weight? And
that's exactly it.
I spent more money. I invested in myself heavier than I ever have in my entire life. And now I get, less than I was expecting. Like, I get it. You're not guaranteed your win bonus because anything can happen in a fight.
Yeah.
But your show money that he thought he was going to get, he thought he was getting that $250.
He was counting on that money to come in. It's a lot of money.
Hell yeah.
And I feel worse for fighters, lower level fighters, because it's money that they're actually going to miss. When you have a situation like Jessica Andrade, when she said she didn't want to take you on right away because she needed money to invest in her camp. And we don't think that because we just, we don't really stop to think about the fact that maybe she just doesn't have the money right now.
That
happens. Pay for that camp.
That happens.
And she needs to fight to make money to invest in that other camp. So it's kind of like we sometimes, I think, overlook the fact that fighters live paycheck to paycheck too. Some guys. Obviously, with Ferguson, I'm sure he's doing
probably got a little bit in the bank. He's done pretty well lately.
Yeah.
But still,
I mean, I would think to me that the fair thing would be always pay the show money, whatever the show money was originally agreed to.
I agree.
Now that it's out, I think that they're gonna have to do a push to include it in the contract.
That's what I think. And that's why I wanted to talk about it because I don't want to sit here and argue who's right, who's wrong because I can literally see the UFC's point of view how they're like, hey man, come on, look what we did for you.
Yeah, like we didn't have to when we're doing it.
Right.
So I get it.
Totally see it. But that's where I'm saying, and I think. Whether it's the managers like pushing back and saying we've got to get this agreement changed, or even the athletic commission stepping in and being like, let's do this. Good friend of both of ours, Alex Davis, he wrote a piece on MMAjunkie recently, and he's serious about this, man. And I know he's been in contact with a couple of commissions that he kind of wants to obviously we've had all these unification efforts and union efforts and association efforts, and man, you never know what their motivation is. Alex, I know what his motivation is. And I'm not trying to say I firmly stand behind Alex, but I do know that his intentions are right. It's for things like this. This is something that absolutely has to get fixed, man. I mean, to me, it's like an oversight that we've had for 20 years, and it finally kind of comes out in the open, and you're like, what? And it reminds me of the Mark Hunt thing. Like, the Mark Hunt thing where he's saying, listen, I think if a guy pops positive for drugs, I should get part of his money. Now, Mark's a little bit crazy in saying that I should get all of his money. But if a dude misses weight by 2 pounds, you get 20%.
Exactly.
But he can test positive for steroids and I get 0?
I agree with
that. That is a stupid rule. Yeah. Like, that is dumb. This is shit that needs to get fixed. And I guess that's kind of what I want to talk about because I gotta start things like this that are dumb and need to get fixed. I realize I've got to start making more out of it and keeping it in the front. I think that's my responsibility.
Yeah, but it's
Dumb
nice.
shit that needs to be fixed. I've got to bang the drum a little bit. You know what I mean?
I think that's a responsibility that we should all, take upon ourselves as media people, because at the end of the day, it's the fighters that need protecting. It's not the UFC that needs protecting. Even when we can understand their reasons and whatever, like they're the big corporation with all the lawyers and everything, like, and the leverage.
Yes.
They do the shit that they do because they have leverage. They know where they stand. So it's kind of like the people who need protecting are the fighters. But I think that it takes unity to really move something forward in that sense. And I struggle to see how that's going to happen, because it's a lot of egos. It's a lot of people looking out for their own interests.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, and you're going to have a conflict. Just the dynamics of the whole thing, I find it very hard, because then when people come in, they look like they have ulterior motives, which was the case with the latest association, like, with fighters from the competing agency and like Rebney, like,
right, which everybody feels like he doesn't do business,
like,
right?
What is going on? So it's kind of
going to be hard. And I talked to Alex. I was like, dude, look, what you're talking about is a massive undertaking. He gets it, and he was even like, well, maybe I could quit managing and start doing. I'm like, dude, like that's scary.
Huge. Yeah.
But something needs to happen. And so I think little stuff like, well, I don't even call it little stuff like this. I just thought for 10 years I felt like my job is to just report the news, not to make the news. I'm not supposed to be a part of the news. But I don't know. I guess I kind of like seeing stuff like this and just realizing like it's just dumb and wrong makes me think, no, let's shine a light on that and let's fix this, because this makes no damn sense.
But that's it. But you're still not making the news. You're still reporting, but like you're bringing it to light, And I think that I do believe that we have that responsibility, I think that a lot of journalists like to hide behind the idea of like, oh, we're impartial or gotta hear both sides, or just the whole logic to just stay away from everything. But I don't think it's a must, but I myself feel sort of the responsibility of looking out for the people who are the weakest in any situation. So it's kind of like, I agree with you.
That's
and
well said.
I hope we can see some change in that regard. Honestly, I think the momentum has shifted.
I think so. It does feel that way.
Because they're starting to rebel in their own ways.
They lost, I don't say loyalty. Maybe loyalty is the right word, but with the sale. It's now, it's like, no, you know what? We're pushing back now.
Because I think they had a personal thing, too.
Yes.
Lorenzo brought a personal factor. Many people dealt with him directly. You know him. He's a very nice, polite, and just engaging guy. He had a lot of personal magnetism. And a lot of people don't know it because he wasn't in the media that much. But, like, whereas Dana has this kind of abrasive, all over the place personality that some people can, jive with, but some people just can't. Lorenzo had this way about him that made you feel heard. I don't know, it seems weird, but I didn't even talk to him that much, but I could kind of pick up on that from him.
He had a presence. The dude commands a room.
Dude, and then
even if you don't know who he is, you have no idea who he is. Where like he walks into a room, you're like, that dude's somebody. That dude is somebody.
That is so it. That is so it. Can you imagine? So you cultivate that friendship with him, and something goes wrong, and you go and Lorenzo gives you a call, like reassuringly. That changes it. There is some loyalty to it, I think.
Yep.
And then when you take the human figure out of it, and now you're fighting a corporation, it makes it a lot easier for you to like rebel.
I feel like the tide is turning a little bit. I don't know, how far it'll go and how much they'll be able to get done, but that's my vow. That's what I'm realizing now. That's the change I'm going to make within myself. 1 week ahead of my 39th birthday, that'll be my change moving forward as I get older.
That's nice.
Yes.
I approve.
All right. Let's talk about the co-main event: Shogun Rua versus Gian Villante. Another fight that's kind of weird, but it's Shogun, the Pride great against Gian Villante, who's awesome.
But that to me makes sense. That's that's weird. There's weird that's just weird,
right.
And there's weird that makes sense. To me, that's it. Because, like, who's Shogun gonna fight now?
Yeah.
Like, boring-ass wrestler dude who wants to climb in his career, so he's gonna, like, do whatever he needs to do to win. So he's gonna, like, make Shogun boring. Like, nobody cares if Shogun wins or loses. Like that's the thing. I don't think anybody's just we don't. And I talked to him about it. Well, you couldn't understand it because it was in Portuguese.
Yes, it was in Portuguese. I followed that conversation. I did find out that the word matchup is also used in Portuguese.
By me, anyway.
Okay.
I lose the words now in Portuguese in my head
Right.
because I'm at home every day writing in English. So it's just kind of like I'm seriously forgetting words. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I was talking to him about this, and I asked, you've reached a stage in which you can afford to not care about losing. You know, and very, very few guys do that. And I'm not even saying just because of name, but because of style, but because it's a draw, whatever happens.
Yeah.
So he has the luxury of losing. You know?
Absolutely.
So I asked him, and it's like,
It's not like they're gonna cut him.
yeah.
You know.
And his tone was interesting because he was like, no, losing sucks because, you know, it sucks and you spent a lot of, you know, money and you prepare and it's a disappointment because of like there's a camp behind it, right? You don't just go up there and fight. But he didn't seem too broken up about it either. He was like, yeah, but you know, a fighter's got to learn how to lose. Like if I didn't know how to lose, I wouldn't be here. So it's kind of like,
That's an interesting answer.
yeah. So it's kind of like that makes perfect sense. That was a very Shogun answer, and it satisfied me. But it was interesting. It was a quick but nice chat that we had.
Crazy. I think he's only like 35.
He's only 35, and Villante is 31. and I asked him,
So crazy.
how does it feel to get a guy, you know, who's like almost your age, saying like he grew up watching you? Because Villante corrected himself when he said that. He was like, no, we're pretty much the same age, but... And he was like, oh, the other day I was walking down the street and this dude who looked older than me was like, hey, I was watching you since you were a kid. It was like, he was the curse word. Like, he's like, now you're just fucking me. It was really, really funny.
I mean, you're right. I guess stylistically this would be a fun fight. Nobody wants to see Shogun fight a wrestler, right?
Like, don't do it. Why? Like, no, there's no point unless you're giving him, like, he goes into this amazing tear and you're giving him a title shot. Which, by the way, it's not even that far if you think about a really shitty division.
Yeah.
Like, it sucks. When you're begging Serkinov to come back, like, you know you're in trouble in that division.
Yeah, I mean, they're losing people in a division that's already thin to begin with.
It made, honestly, I was really surprised about how shocked people were when he decided to leave. Like,
Yeah.
people were, like, super upset about it. They were really broken up about Serkinov. I'm like, who is Serkinov? He fought, like, 3 times.
Yeah.
I like him. I like the guy. He beat Krylov, who I absolutely love for no reason. I don't know. I just carry a very...
Because he's weird. And
He's
been in
weird.
fights.
I love him. Like, he has a special place in my heart.
Yep.
Like, I'm just going to get a Krylov tattoo when Anik gets his Brazil tattoo.
That'd be great. Yeah.
But so I just think it shows like how thin the division is because you're suffering the loss of like any scrap of talent, you know. So I'm not even saying that Shogun is, you know, a card out of the deck. I wouldn't imagine that Dan Henderson will fight for the belt when he did, and he did. So
You never know what's gonna happen.
But we want to see him like be Shogun. You know, and I think Villante is a good matchup because he's not that fast. He's not that like that's the thing. Shogun doesn't have his speed anymore.
Have you looked at the odds for this one?
I haven't.
I just pulled them up. I hadn't even looked at them yet. Do you know who's the favorite?
It's Villante.
Shogun.
It's Shogun?
Yeah, it's very slight. It's almost a pick 'em. Like it's almost even.
I think I
I'm
saw it
kinda
the day. I
surprised to
thought
see
it
that
was
Shogun.
I thought it was.
Maybe
Villante.
it's switched since it's moved.
How big is it?
Not bad. It's like minus 140. I mean, it's really
that
close.
was no. Sorry, wrong. That was the one I saw the other day.
So that's crazy to me.
I
He's the favorite?
I picked him.
Well, because you're Brazilian.
A lot of our staff picked him.
I don't even remember who I picked.
Because you're Brazilian.
I'm
you
in
guys are
last
so
place.
evil.
I'm in last
I
place.
picked
I don't
Derek
wanna talk about
Brunson,
picks.
okay? I earned points forever.
It's a good fight. It's a good fight.
I love this fight. I mean, it could be awful. It could be sloppy as fuck, and you're like, oh my god, this is so like, it's bad and good and past bad and good again. Like, it can be awful, but I think I'm very interested.
Villante likes to brawl, so we'll see if he does it. I mean, I would think he'd still probably try to wrestle a little bit. I mean, I know he's not a
You think
wrestler. So? Facing Shogun, are you gonna stand there in front of him?
I think like he could even knock him out or whatever.
Could.
because like Shogun has been knocked out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, but he can be knocked. It's an interesting. And today when we were speaking, and then he was like, "Well, I'd probably be upset if I get a quick knockout. Like I want to brawl. No, maybe I wouldn't be upset."
That was funny. Talking to John is always fun. So I actually wanted to play the second part of our conversation that we had, the part where he tells the story about his USADA bust and how he didn't believe what was happening to him because he thought that somebody was fucking with him. Can you clear up this USADA thing? I mean, you're the guy that's like,
nobody asked me about it.
I'm not taking anything. I mean, you're the guy that I've heard you. You're like, I'm not taking anything, dude. I'm like water and like I don't even think you take Flintstone vitamins or whatever, right? And then you get popped by USADA. All works out okay because you get the retroactive TUE. But dude, just talk us through that whole experience. What?
Well, it was crazy. After my last fight in Albany, I was pretty sick during the fight. Had some fluid around my heart. Like my heart wasn't beating right. I wasn't getting a lot of oxygen in my blood. I was pretty fucked up. Am I allowed to say fucked up? All right, I was pretty messed up. But so I had to go to the hospital after the fight and went to a bunch of different doctors, make sure my heart was okay, and they were telling me I had some pretty bad bronchitis. And I had some other things going on, so went to the hospital and they gave me some inhalers and whatever the hell else they gave me to try to make me feel better. And I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you sort of realize that I was really sick and I was in the hospital and that I needed to take that at that time. So I mean, they know, like I've been to the athlete summits and stuff like that. I'm scared to take protein. Like I won't take any supplements or anything like that because I'm scared that you don't know what's in these things. So I've heard the story of Tim Means, stuff like that. That is some crazy stuff, man. I feel horrible for him that he had to lose almost a year of fighting because his supplement he was taking was tainted, So I'm not going to mess with no creatine, no protein, no nothing. So, I mean, I take some melatonin to go to sleep, and I always list it exactly which one I take because I'm scared even that might have something in it. You never know with these people, so.
Did you panic at all? I mean, did you worry a little bit, or were you like, I know I'm good, or how'd you feel?
Funny story, actually. I'll tell you the funny story. So, Weidman has this ability to call me. He knows it too. I know it, but so I never know who the hell's calling me. To call me from different numbers. He's got some things. So if you get a phone call, so I'm thinking it's Weidman the whole time. I'm like, yeah, okay, Chris, that's hilarious, blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, no, sir, sorry, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, very funny. And I hung up on the dude. So then they call, they're like, oh, that's very funny that Chris Weidman does this to you, blah, 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 but this is not Chris Weidman. This is so-and-so from your side. I'm like, dude, I don't believe you. Like, stop, bro. Okay, I got to go somewhere, blah, blah. He keeps telling me this and that. He's like, we're sorry, but we're going to get it all taken care of. And he's trying to comfort me at this point. So I'm like, Chris wouldn't be comforting. It's really trying to make me feel worse. So maybe it isn't him. So I'm like, oh, crap. So I'm talking to him, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to get a little bit nervous here, this and that. And he's like, then I'm like, shit, am I not going to be able to fight, blah, blah, blah. And then they're telling me they should be able to get it cleared up. I explained the whole story. I was in the hospital, this and that, and they thought I'd be all right. But then I told Chris, and he was dying laughing. He thinking it was the greatest thing in the world. Like, first I tell him I failed a drug test, and he's like, and I'm like, you called me, right? I still think it might be him, like, playing with them. And he's like, no, dude, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, no, I failed. And pretend like I'm all sad. So hopefully he'll tell me that he's kidding. But no, he wasn't. And then I was telling him how I'll be okay and this and that. So, but yeah, that's the funny story about it was I thought it was him the whole time.
So what do you think? I mean, at the end of the day, now that you've gone through this all, like, does it make you feel good that this is going on? Do you feel like, because everybody's trying to debate right now, like guys like you are dealing with this. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, now that you've gone through this experience, do you feel like, yeah, man, I'm happy, like USADA's doing good things, or like, oh my God, like this is not right? What's your feeling at the end of the day?
I'm certainly happy that they test everyone, and do I know how many times Shogun got tested for this fight? No. I only got tested, I think, maybe once, maybe twice. I was dealing with that suspension, so maybe that's why I only got tested. I don't know. I mean, so I don't know if people are really getting tested. I don't know if you're in Brazil, if you're getting tested that much, or who's, I don't know what's going on with it. But Yeah, but I'm sure I could find out more knowledge on that stuff if I really wanted to. But I do think they're doing a good job. I appreciate what they do. I mean, I'd much rather have a clean sport. I mean, if it's going to be a dirty sport, then I hope UFC will be in here like the old school WWF and pass us out some steroids. So I wouldn't know what to take, you know. But I want to be on the same level playing field is what I'm saying. So I'm hoping, you know, we stay that way. I hope USADA stays around. I do appreciate what they do. You know, I didn't like that it had to come out in the media that I was on something and, you know, an inhaler for my bronchitis. But right away it looks like you're on steroids, this and that. But I understand what they're doing, and they got to be fair to everyone else. And I get it. You know, I told them everything like that. So, you know, people were saying I was getting unfair treatment because so good looking, but it was. I don't think it was anything like that. I just think it was, you know, I had a pretty unique case of being in the hospital and having to take medication from that. So, and listing the medication that I was taking, it was just that I didn't get the TUE beforehand, but sick. So, but yeah, I don't think I got any sort of special treatment. I think they treat us all pretty fairly, and I'd like to see them test more. I mean, honestly. Just don't wake me up too early. They know, the guy knows who comes and tests me that I won't answer the door before 10 a.m. So, like, not even close. He can be out there ringing all day. It's you got to buzz into my building. You ain't getting in there. So.
So Gian Villante thought Chris Weidman was messing with him.
And he was, and not just thought, like, he was committed to that idea. Like,
Phenomenal.
he was dedicated to that idea. It was amazing.
Phenomenal. Luckily, everything worked out. Again, something that is very interesting since we're now committing to making social change in the world. That is an interesting. This whole USADA thing. I really do. It's not perfect. No question, it's not perfect. I do feel like I feel like it's a move in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's way better than the Wild West. But the whole thing about, like, you know, people getting named before, like, the whole thing is done. It's weird because you want the transparency, right? I mean, you don't want people hiding things. You know what I mean?
But it's not transparent because you don't know the substance.
It's true. Exactly. You're right.
So you're giving, like, half transparency. And for what? I mean, I get that you're kind of like, we got this guy popped, do this. But, like, I think this creates a guilty until proven innocent atmosphere.
I do.
And we're so used to thinking he must be using. It's so common, like, the mindset. And a lot of fighters will admit that before it happened to them, they felt the same way.
Right. Well, it's like, you know, a newspaper printing a, you know, bold headline and then the next day on page 10 putting a retraction.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, nobody remembers the little retraction on the bottom of page 10. They remember the bold headline.
And it ruined your reputation, you know? It's just kind of like, and that's the thing with, for instance, I think what really opened my eye was the story that I did with Mateus Nicolau, because the first thing that like, really, I mean, you can't trust the eye test when it comes to steroids, but I'm thinking this really young kid who weighs like 4 pounds,
right,
gets popped. Like, why? What is he taking? Like, what is like, in my head, I'm like, what are steroids going to do for this kid? This, like, fucking flyweight.
Yep.
Who's 21 or 2, like, you know, an older guy, so I'm, like, in my head very curious about it. And then I reached out to Eduardo, who happens to be his manager, and he put me in contact with Mateus. And Mateus told me the entire story, and he was not mad at anything, but, like, so here's this kid preparing for his fight. He's coming home from training. He opens his laptop, and there's an email from USADA. And 5 minutes after that, it's all over the internet. He doesn't even know what he got popped for.
That's crazy.
They sent a substance that he had no idea what it was.
That's crazy.
So he's researching that, calling people, like, confused about what's happening, and everybody's thinking that the kid popped. You know, I don't like this. I don't like this. I know many people are going to be like, oh, but the person is certainly using. Everybody uses. Everybody's on steroids. And it's kind of like, okay, people like to think that.
All right,
Call
Nick
me
Diaz.
naive. Call me naive.
Right.
But I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, or at least wait until we know what the substance is, or at least give like amounts or something like that.
I mean,
In
yeah,
his
because
case, it was such a tiny amount of a substance that it gave him the benefit of the doubt.
Because look, they're not going to fight if they're flagged, right? So I mean, it's not like well, if we don't tell anybody, they might accidentally book them. You know what I mean? Like they know internally.
Yeah.
So he's not going to fight. I kind of agree. Like, let the whole thing play out first. Let the whole thing play out.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to stop and think about the best process, but I just don't like this scare tactics. And I think it was Frank Mir who brought it up, like that in the legal system, usually it's like innocent until proven guilty, and you have all these stances to make sure that you get due process. And for these guys, like to be able to prove their innocence, it's so much money too.
That's true too. That's a part where they don't even talk about. I mean, you got to get your own legal representation.
It's so much money.
That
and a
seems
kid
weird
like
too.
Mateos or whatever,
He got
like,
no money.
And people like, oh, because you get emotionally involved, maybe, but just hearing the story broke my heart because he was about to fight and then he gets sent off. He had to go back home. He was training at Jackson Wink because he didn't have money to stay in the U.S. because it's freaking expensive to stay in the U.S. So you just kind of like start thinking about the fact that sometimes the guy might be innocent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's it. I think it's a concept that most people reject. You know, I think that they usually automatically think this is a lame excuse.
I think you said it right. You said, like, I don't have the whole answer yet. I mean, I feel like now that I'm offering my opinions a little stronger and I'm chasing them out, I don't want to be overboard and say, like, I had the answer to everything. I don't have the answer to this yet, but I'll start working on it. But, yeah, I feel like this part of the process is broken. This part is broken. I like USADA's been criticized about a lot of things, and, there's things you can say and whatever, but this part, I think, is bad and needs to be fixed.
It's just give the person a chance, or just before the slandering begins, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're putting out there a message. And like you said, maybe a couple of months later, it's going to come out that they were, innocent or whatever. But then it's still like, even when we write the story, who got flagged by USADA?
Yeah.
Like Romero, like even his situation. I don't even know what's up. Like it was proven that it was a supplement, right? And I don't even know what's up.
I know, right? I know.
I don't even know what's up.
All right, big lightweight fight. Edson Barbosa versus Beneil Dariush. It's funny, man. This card, it doesn't have the huge star. I mean, I hate to say that with Vitor at the top, but it's not like a championship match or, with the fuck. We had Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov we were supposed to have, and now we're talking about this. But Edson Barbosa versus Beneil Dariush, that is a good fight. Good fight. Edson, maybe, kind of, we haven't done extensive interviews with him this week, but I really feel like when he first came out, I was like, okay, obviously it's striking. I mean, it's amazing. It's, again, it doesn't take an MMA professional to be like, he's got pretty good striking. Fun to watch, but, man, I feel like his head's, like, in a different place. Like, I feel like he's grown, he's matured, and not only has his game gotten better, but I feel like his confidence and, like, his just preparation, like, I feel like he's on a different level right now.
Was it the last Melendez?
Mm-hmm.
I think that really showed his evolution, like you said, in every aspect. It seems like his head more in the game than it was before, and he struggled with inconsistency at first, and I think that part of it was just really lack of octagon experience, because striking experience, obviously he's been fighting since he was a child, like a literal child who was like 7 when he first started fighting.
That's
so it's kind of
nuts.
like, so he knows striking, we have no doubt about that, but I feel like he's finally been able to really connect all the bits of his game. And it's interesting because he's title driven.
Yeah.
And Dariush doesn't seem to give a fuck about
So
the
weird.
title.
He's like, title, whatever. Whatever happens.
I thought it was so interesting, like his approach. It was like, I used to be like super into getting the belt, and now it's kind of like,
He's obviously, I think he was hinting at religion because
Yeah,
he said,
his
right,
crown.
I would wear a
different
different crown or whatever. We didn't necessarily
Go
push him
into-
on that or whatever, but I think he's made it clear his his religious beliefs and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Which is nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, cool, I guess. But I mean, dude, he's right there.
Yeah.
He's literally right there. He's got a nice run. And if he comes in here and beats Edson Barbosa,
That will put him like, and that's the thing. It's a complicated division now
yeah.
because it's really stacked. But at the same time,
Plus, man, plus you've always got that wild card Well, like, first of all, we don't know what's going on with Mayweather and
Yeah.
McGregor. I mean, it sounds like Kevin Lee says it's happening. Kevin Lee said that shit's happening. Just FYI, Motown
Sure.
Phenom says it's happening. No, but I do honestly feel like the tides are turning there. Where I do think McGregor's going to fight Mayweather, which is insane because a year ago I'd have said you're an idiot, you're crazy.
Yeah.
But so that puts things on hold. But then the other thing too is like as long as McGregor's champ, you always have that wild card of Nate coming in and they just book it just to do, you know what I mean,
Dude,
just to
you
do the
have
trilogy just
wild
because you
card
want
of
to.
Aldo coming up,
Yeah.
which is a thing that can really happen.
Yep.
You have Kevin Lee if he beats Francisco. I don't think right there,
Right.
but like
Yeah, the time. I can't ever see Connor being like, that Benil guy, he's really been bugging me. Like, we need to, you know what I mean? Like, we need
Can you imagine the promotion? That would be amazing.
we've got a score to settle.
That would be amazing. Like, how
Benil's
is he
like,
gonna offend Benil?
We don't have to settle a score. It'll all be settled in heaven one day. You know what I mean? Like, but dude, if Edson wins, I know he's a step behind because he had the loss, a loss that he was fighting really well against
Yeah.
Tony Ferguson. You know what I mean? So he's like
and
one
it's
step
lost
below.
to Tony Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
So
So he's right there, and
I think it's right there.
stylistically that would be fun. I mean,
Yeah.
I could see people trying to talk Connor into that one. You know what I mean? Because that's not a guy that's going to wrestle you. It's a guy that's going to strike. Edson could wave the flag of Brazil, like, yes, you beat one of our countrymen. Now it's time for me to, I could see a way to get there. I guess is what I'm saying.
I think so too. But it's so hard now for us to even predict anything, especially with the fighters like going up and down divisions like it's no big deal.
So true.
This makes everything so unpredictable because that's it. Like you're one guy deciding he's no longer a featherweight away from just like completely changing the title picture. I don't know if Aldo would come up to fight, to do a random fight, but like I can see him coming up soon.
Yeah.
I mean, he said it like he tried that day, like swears they tried to book Ferguson and they tried to book Khabib, and both of them turned it down. And it's funny because people could never accuse Aldo of being scared,
Right.
because it's like if you're willing to take on Tony Ferguson and you're Jose Aldo, like
That's crazy.
yeah, it's just a weird matchup for me in my head. And Tony looks massive for me.
Yeah, he is.
He is. He's a big guy, and he was saying that he could go down to featherweight.
That's insane.
That is so like.
I think he walks around at like 190 or something. Which
I read, I think it was Luke Thomas who tweeted that he was on his show and he said that he cut from like 190 or something.
yeah, that's what I've heard. He's around that size. That's insane. Yeah, it's crazy because Mike Bond puts together his Joe Silva shoes and now Sean Shelby shoes. And it's funny because like because people love to do that. What's next?
Yeah.
What's next? But it is so weird nowadays because you're like, well, I think of predictions, but maybe George St. Pierre will come back and fight for the middleweight title.
Like, who would have predicted that? It's just crazy. It's really hard for us to even like think of landscapes at this point.
It's nuts. All right, Ray Borg versus Jussier Formiga. I love this fight. It's a flyweight fight. I know the flyweight division. It's like I'm wasting my time even talking about it. I love the flyweight division. I think it's great. Ray Borg, young kid, man, really talented. He's had a couple setbacks, but young and getting better. Formiga, it's funny because I called Formiga's fights out in Tachi Palace, and he was scrawny back then. It's always funny, like he's put on so much muscle during his
he's kinda,
UFC
like,
run,
Buff.
And his I know Ray Borg was not a fan of Jussier's
Boring.
his boring jiu-jitsu style, but Jesus Christ, that dude gets
It's
on your back
stifling.
and you are in trouble. So
It's like Honey Yahya, like it's not gonna be. And Honey, you actually striking a little bit more as of late, and we've seen it. But, it's kind of like Jussier knows how to win fights. That's his main thing. It's not always gonna be exciting, but you never count him out. I picked him, but not with a lot of conviction.
it's good fights. I'm telling you, these top ones could also
Borg
try.
was like, he's not gonna knock me out. He does not have any power. Like he's just like he's annoyed at the thought of Formiga. Clearly,
Hates him.
it's great.
Betch Correia versus Marion Renault, women's fight there at 135 pounds. Not really in the title picture or anything right now. I think it's just two fighters that want to pick up a win and stay relevant. Betch is doing her thing, man. Betch is doing her
She
thing.
thinks she's in the title picture.
How you know what?
No, she
looking
doesn't
back
think
on
right
history,
away, but
looking back like throughout history, other than Conor McGregor masterminding his thing, Betch's rise to getting knocked out by Ronda Rousey, but still her rise to getting to a title fight out of literally like hand signals is amazing. The whole
great.
four horsewomen thing,
She played that
perfectly. Dude, there were so many contenders that were better than her, and I don't
played
mean
her
that.
head.
I don't mean to.
No,
You know,
For sure.
she pulled herself into that fight. Probably made a nice little paycheck from it. Obviously didn't end the way that she wanted it to end, but man, dude, you got to give her credit.
She got, I think, like, the bad thing for her is just she deals with a lot of hate, you know, because of the way that she talks and just, like, how bold she is. But,
Right.
Again, I talked to her, and she was like, no, I'm fine with it.
So even down here in Brazil, she gets hate, or
Oh,
just?
yeah.
Oh, really?
We're sexist.
Oh, just because they think she should be more ladylike or something?
And, like, she's not pretty in Brazilian standards because
Right.
we people like to worship, you know, the foreign-looking
Right.
people. So
Right.
it was kind of like Ronda would be the ideal of pretty.
That's
And
interesting.
Betty, like,
So we're judging a fighter by her looks, basically.
oh, yeah, because that never happened before.
Oh, you heathens down here in Brazil. What's wrong with you? The way you evaluate female fighters
By
on
their
looks.
appearance. Terrible.
That's a
yeah.
shame. I didn't know that. I didn't know that she
Oh,
got
it's
hated
so
like
mean.
that.
Like, I go through her Instagram page and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. I'm depressed. It's just mean. People are awful. And I think she has to have a really thick skin. You
Mm.
know, I talked to her about this. There's gonna be a story up, and because it's even like my headline about facing criticism, because she was like, sometimes it's hurtful and it's painful, but you know, like, and she says it's a risk that I take because I say things, and I don't think other fighters have that courage sometimes. But
It's
I
true.
do.
You got to put yourself out there if you want to risk the rewards, right? If if you want to reap the rewards, I should say, you got to put yourself out there.
Exactly, and she does it, but like it's awful. It's mean. People are mean. And then you see what Cyborg had to read her entire life, and what Gabi Garcia had to read her entire life, and it's that to me is like really when people are like, oh, you don't need feminism anymore because the world is great and it's not sexist. Like, yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. And people are shitty, especially on the internet. All right, the main card opens up with Tim Means versus Alex Oliveira, the rematch. How about Tim Means? Well, first of all, I mean, I'm glad they redid this fight because I think that the bottom line is the Nevada State Athletic Commission got it wrong. Here we go. Taking another stand. God damn it.
I'm loving this version of you, John Morgan.
I think the
can
NSAC
support this.
I think the NSAC got it wrong. I think they screwed up that night. I mean, I think it was so confusing on the broadcast. Like they were saying even Mark Ratner was a little bit confused to the rules.
He
and they were just
yeah, that's
so-
what I read.
So it was
that
confusing.
He said, and Joe Rogan, when he interviewed him, when we were just watching
Mm-hmm.
it, he said it was legal. Like, he really put T Means in a situation in which he felt right. That's
Right.
what he said today. He was like, I
Exactly.
would have felt like I would have admitted I was an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, if I was alone. But I heard a lot of people saying that I was right. So it was kind of like an overall confusion. And I actually saw it on Twitter because that's the thing. You were probably doing play-by-play.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you can't really follow the noise.
Exactly.
But I was like checking on Twitter all the time, and you could see people like going kind of back and forth about it.
Like trying to figure out what was right, what was wrong.
You
Well,
know?
I love the fact that we talked to Tim Means today and asked him about it, and he just manned up and said, DQ me.
Yep.
Clearly,
But yeah,
I
he's
threw it with
asking
intent.
for you to be a disqualification, and it's like, yeah, absolutely. How do you feel about it? Do you think that's fair? Absolutely.
It's phenomenal. This is a short little clip, but it's I think it deserves to be heard because Tim Means really impressed me here.
Tim, right after the first fight, Alex was like pretty quick to ask for the rematch right away. How did you feel like after it ended? Were you interested in that rematch?
Oh, yeah, we have unfinished business, so I think it was a good thing for him to ask for it. I think it's kind of crazy he wants it here in his hometown, so you know, we're going to start off where we left off.
What do you mean by kind of crazy?
You know, it was a fight that he was losing, so you know, he was supposed to out wrestle me and out grapple me, and it wasn't working for him. You know, we grabbed a hold of each other, and I was a stronger fighter. So I don't know how he expects to win in front of his friends and family, and I expect to put him down in front of his friends and family.
Yeah, later after everything was done, you admitted that it was an illegal knee because you didn't really know that it was illegal. And he's appealing it to turn it into a disqualification. How do you think about that? Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know how they called it accidental. I misconstrued the rules when we're breaking them down in the back where we have to have this 3 points of contact or hand down and all that. I've never read the rule until that night because I've been in the rules meetings and we always break it down. If you're on a knee, you have to have a hand down. I think that's where the gray area began. We always talk about a hand down. It's anything other than your two soles. And I never thought I had to read the rules since I've been in the rules meetings, you know. So I saw his hands up. I saw him trying to defend my knee. So he thought a knee was coming as well. And then when I got in the back, there was fighters that also were confused on it. There was a big gray area. So I would take more responsibility on myself, call myself a dumbass if it was only me that thought that the knee was legal. But there was a whole bunch of confusion behind it. And you know, I saw his hands up. I saw he was trying to stand up, and I threw a knee. So didn't try to hurt him or cheat in any way, but I did try to take him out. So
I mean, just to clarify, are you saying that if they did call it a disqualification, you'd be okay with that?
absolutely. If we're following the rules, we're following the rules, you know. And accidental, they're playing with my intelligence, you know. So I threw a knee on purpose because I thought it was completely legal. So, you know, give the dude the DQ.
And before that, you mentioned that you felt you were winning, but you didn't really have that much time in there with him. How did you, from that short time that you guys spent in there, how did you feel like, did anything surprise you, or is there any, how did you prepare for this rematch based on that short time?
I thought a lot went down. In our 3 minutes, there was more in our 3-minute fight than in the five-round championship fight the other night. So, you know, I thought a lot went down. You know, he put me on my ass when I was trying to fix my clothing because my shorts were too big. Forgot to have them fitted or whatever. So I was fixing my shorts when he threw a spin kick. But that's all he has. You know, he has that speed, and that started slowing down for him. I'm a pressure fighter, and I break guys with pace. So that's about all that went down in the fight for him. You know, I was winning the wrestling and the grappling exchanges, and I'm going to do just that again.
And the last one for me, after the fight too, you sort of like called out the media there a little bit. What was that about? What is a specific thing or?
You know, man, the media keeps saying that I'm only a grappler, and that's again my fault, or I'm only a striker, that's again my fault. So I need to show a little bit more of an all-around skill set. And I was just kind of pissed off, so I didn't want nobody to be happy that night. I wanted everybody to be pissed, and so, you know, I was talking trash. You know, I like the media. You know, I meet a lot of cool guys through that or whatever, but, you know, I want everybody to be pissed. So I tried to start the night off right. If you watch my fights, I start the show, you know. So other guys don't know how to get people involved, you know what I mean? And, you know, I might not have the fans like Conor McGregor and those guys do, but give me an opportunity to talk, and I'll wow you.
All right, so Tim Means, I love it, man. Much respect to anybody that'll just man up and be like, you know, or woman up. They'll just say, you know, like, hey, you know, I was wrong, I was whatever. I thought it was off. I thought it was cool. But here's me taking my stand. I don't get it. You know, Alex Davis again, not hiding. We're friends. I mean, it's great.
Really?
Yes, I know. So
you too?
I know.
I would
shocking.
have never known.
He's his manager. He's Cowboys' manager, and he filed an appeal. And the commission's just not even getting back to him. Like, they're not even answering his emails. Yeah. And I actually reached out to Bob Bennett last week, and I was like, hey, I just want to follow up on this. Like, because I hadn't even spoken to Alex, but it just in my head, I'm like, hey, we're going down there. They're doing the rematch. This will be a good time for a story. Yeah. What's the status? And Bob was just like, yeah, no comment at this time. I'm like, what? So
why are they putting up such a fight with this?
Every time I've ever seen I mean, and I've seen a bunch of appeals, right? And every time they never change anything, because basically at the end of the day they go, well, you know, the commission wants to support their referees, and I can respect that. Like, they don't want to embarrass their referee.
But the referee makes mistakes.
That's it. And that doesn't mean the referee sucks. That doesn't mean he's bad.
He's human.
Especially right now where, do you know what set of rules we're using this week, by the way?
I have no idea.
Exactly. We're using the old ones, by the way. We'll use the new ones next week in London. People don't even know, like, right now with this transitionary period between the rules, like, commissions don't even know what, it's bizarre. People are going to make mistakes. People make mistakes.
That's it.
That doesn't mean the referee sucks.
But that's like the Brazilian commission might be a clusterfuck, but they're like really good about.
I will say that they have done some great things. So I just wish
they do have
step
extra
up here.
bad refs though. So
right. So that kind of makes up for it. Like, we got a bunch of them. So that's why we have to do stuff.
This decision was so outlandishly ridiculous that it made it very easy for us to overturn it. But
yeah, you know, it was Dan Miragliotta in the cage that night. Dan is a phenomenal referee. He's a fantastic referee.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He has all the best intentions.
he made a mistake.
He made a mistake.
It happens. Let's all move on with our lives.
Seems like a common sense solution.
But yeah, and that to me is just kind of like very old timey. Like it's a very old timey way of thinking.
Right.
Just kind of like, we gotta protect this. We gotta look good here. Like you're really holding on to your little thing there, and it's to me that's like probably I bet there's just like a bunch of old men running that shit.
All right, now we're getting into the sexism.
No, I'm not. It's not. It doesn't have to do with that. I'm just meaning that it's a very usually when there's this kind of structure.
Just the good old boys network, as we like to say.
Things are run a certain way, and then a lot of the times when you ask why are they run like this, the answer is basically because that's
the way it is, and that's
this
wrong.
way forever.
Yeah, and that's not right.
You know?
So I don't know. I think they should fix this, man. You got the guy. The thing was ruled. I mean, think about this. Think about how stupid this is. The ruling is he accidentally threw the knee unintentionally, right? It was unintentional to the head, to the knee, to a grounded opponent.
Yeah.
You've got the guy that threw the knee saying, it wasn't. It was intentional.
Like, don't insult my intelligence. Like, if I'm saying I meant to do it, I meant to do it. Like, I'm sure if Alex goes like, would you mind walking with me to the commission? Knees would probably be like, sure.
Absolutely.
Why not? I'm not doing anything today.
So ridiculous. All right, sneaky good card continues. Kevin Lee, the Motown Phenom, versus Francisco Trinaldo.
That's a really good
It's a really good fight. Kevin Lee, he's had a couple setbacks along the way, but he's a top prospect, and I think he's getting better. I mean, people have had their eye on him for a while. Meanwhile, Francisco Trinaldo, maybe if you're not a big, if you don't watch all the Brazilian cards, you might not know him because he's fought almost exclusively here in Brazil.
Yeah.
But the guy is good. He's tough as nails. There's no way he's whatever his age says he is. He's got to be like 10 years older than that. But dude, he's super tough, man. He's like, he gets tired. That's the fair drawback is that sometimes he gasses a little bit, but grinding style, man. His wrestling is tough. His striking, I think, is underrated, man. He's actually, pretty decent at that. This is a good clash of styles, and man, Kevin Lee, potential future star, but this is a tough fighter, and Trinaldo is like the dude that just won't go away.
And that was pretty much what we were saying, because I think he just snuck up on everyone, right? Like once we looked at it, it was like he has a bunch of wins.
How the hell did he get 8 in a row or whatever? It's like 7 in a row. It's
because
insane.
at first, when he came out on Tough, the thing that he had was he hit really hard.
Right.
So that was his thing.
Right.
Like he's
just a big, powerful dude.
But he gassed out.
Right.
So it was very clear once he started his UFC run to everyone. I think everybody was just kind of like, this gimmick is going to get old.
Right.
And,
he's a one-trick pony, and he's not a young guy. He's he does have the folk hero stuff working for him, which is awesome. He's got an incredible backstory of coming from absolute nothing to being where he is, and
he's like this guy like with the heart of gold who's unintentionally hilarious, or intentionally, I don't even know. He's just funny. Like his interviews are hilarious. He's a funny guy.
Did he throw a birthday party for his hometown for all the kids or whatever? Because he never had parties,
he didn't have parties, so he bought and he sent pictures.
Who the fuck does that, man? How amazing is that,
dude? It was just like the fucking poorest little town. Like you see the pictures and it was just sad, just how you see how really little that they had. And he's just that. Like, remember when he last won and he was like talking about like he was super emotional about how he's becoming a dad and he wants to be the best father in the world. Like, even that, like, and it's just so genuine. It just comes from him. So you want to root for him, but at the same time, you're kind of like constantly counting him out. I think Kevin Lee is gonna be the one to end that streak. Right. Because for the reasons that Kevin Lee pointed out himself, Massaranduba has always found a way to win here and there, but I think Kevin is one step above and just a little more savvy than the people who fought Massaranduba.
It's funny, man. Kevin Lee really does look like the real deal, man. He looks like a real talent. The loss, and I mean, you talked about it, he kind of, put it aside. I mean, the loss to Leo Santos, man, that was, first of all, it was just like, okay, you might lose to Leo Santos, but you're not going to get knocked out by him.
So that was like, I remember everyone's reaction to that was pretty much, what just happened? Like, he hadn't knocked out a person since, I don't know, I was 4. Like, I don't even remember. I think he only had like one knockout and it had been forever. So it's just, nobody was expecting it to happen, and it really was a halt in momentum for Kevin, and as we were saying, he needs to put that in the back of his head and
Yep.
not let it like ruin his life. But it really was a big loss, like when you think about it. But he started rebuilding his momentum. He's 3-0 since, so I mean, I think a win here really, really puts him in the scene again, and he's a really marketable guy that could really, with a little bit of a push, I think
Definitely.
he could be a good one.
Definitely. A couple other fun fights. I mean, Joe Soto versus Hani Yaya, two like really
That's
good
a
grapplers.
really good fight.
It's a great fight right there. Not necessarily title implications right now, but just stylistically it could be a lot of fun. Crazy to see Josh Berkman back here, Michelle Prazeres. Dangerous, tough dude.
I had
sometimes
totally
not fun.
forgotten about that fight.
Sometimes not fun to watch, but tough as nails. But the one that's
Prazeres is the worst to watch.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
he is.
Jeez,
sorry.
Fernanda, tell us how you really feel.
His fights are boring. I'm sorry. But the one that's I kind of wasn't really looking forward to, and the more I talk to people this week is Sergio Moraes versus Davi Ramos. Everybody is like,
That's an amazing fight.
because in my head I'm like, okay, I know Ramos is a jiu-jitsu guy,
He's-
but so Sergio, obviously Serginho's a beast, and Davi is a lower weight class that's fighting up because he's taking this on short notice. So in my head I'm like, it could be fun. But I'm telling you, since we got here on the ground, like everybody
Everybody's
is like,
crazy. He's a grappling beast.
bro, you can't wait till you see
Yeah.
this guy. Wait till you see this guy. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, it's kind of funny because like there's so many fights that we wish like two jiu-jitsu guys would just like really get down to do jiu-jitsu, and then they end up striking or whatever.
Yeah, so
Kinda like
let's
two
not get
wrestlers.
our hopes up.
So yeah, let's not. But oh man, after hearing everything that I'm hearing, like I'm just hoping like maybe they just like both go down to knees and like slap hands and just like just get on the ground and do it.
You talked about title implications. But just wanted to get back on that. Hani Yahya is a guy who's racking up a bunch of wins.
He is. He's one of those guys that I think also is a little slow to get respect because his fighting style is so weird.
And he knows it.
Yeah,
And
but
he's
he
like-
knows. He's like, that's what makes me me.
But then he's frustrated by it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a really good chat with him a while back about, because he started like pushing himself. He was like, I want to do more media.
Right.
I want to be like in the spotlight a little more. And he is frustrated about the fact that he seems to be always like under the radar.
But he self-manages too, right? Like that. Is that why he feels like he's?
Yeah, he was like, it was really hard to get a hold of him. Like he didn't have a cell phone until like 2 weeks ago. So it's kind of like,
I want to do more interviews.
and he's
How
crazy.
do you reach you?
You
I don't know.
talk to him. He's like, he's super kooky. I love him. Like
Yeah.
we developed a very good relationship. Like we're from Brasilia, both of us, so we'll sit down and talk about it. And we talk about personal stuff. We talk about everything. He's a really nice guy, but he's kind of like, eh. So, but he's one that he's racking up the wins, man.
I'm telling you, man, fun little fights. In the Fight Pass prelims, we did lose Godofredo Pepe. What happened there? Do you remember? It was both of
He was no.
It was happened while I was flying here, so I never even got to read the story. I was flying
an
here.
orbital injury.
But he ordered. Oh wow, that sucks.
Pepe, yeah. He got an injury in training and just couldn't. Doctor's orders couldn't go on.
Yeah, you can't mess around with that. But we still get Honey Jason,
Who is he fighting?
Jeremy Kennedy.
Oh, true.
So
The Canadian guy?
yeah, we'll get that on there, and then Gareth McClellan, the Soldier of God, versus Paulo Borrachinha. Did I say that right?
Borrachinha.
Borrachinha.
Oh, that was a Twitter argument about it that was hilarious. Because Zane Simon, he was like, is Borrachinha like little, what was it, little condom or a little...
You know what? I saw that. Like little drunk, because
Little drunk.
borracho in Spanish.
In Spanish. But I heard that in Portuguese. So this guy from Portugal said that it was also in Portuguese from Portugal. They use it,
Huh? But not here.
but not here. Here it's I'd never heard of it. And
So what
apparently
did you decide
it's
he means? So it means little rubber.
little rubber because his brother is just rubber. So he's the little rubber because apparently his brother was super flexible and Borrachinha is apparently flexible too.
So many jokes to make there, but we'll just leave it at that.
But I thought it was hilarious. Then I found a new word because borracha apparently is also a slang for weed, like good weed, which
Good weed is rubber.
I had no idea. And anything can be weed, right? Like if
Yeah.
you say with the right,
Yeah,
it's
right.
like penis and
Yeah.
vagina and weed.
Yeah.
Like if you say it the right way, people know what you're referring to. But I had never heard it, so There you go. Thank you, Bohachinha, for all the knowledge that you brought upon me.
All right, well, that sets the table. We have actually, it's a relatively early period in the night. I would like to go have a few frosty beverages and get a little bit of sleep. I slept like 90 minutes last night. For whatever reason, I could not fall asleep. I'm dying. I need to get some sleep tonight. We will have the early weigh-ins at 9 a.m. in the morning, the afternoon weigh-ins, and then fights on Saturday, late night Saturday night.
Yep. Yeah, another. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't
Brazil
like
cards are
the.
tough, man.
I don't like the. I mean, for me, it's the same when I'm working from
Sure,
home.
because it's the same
I'm
hours,
doing,
so
yeah.
you're doing it.
I hate it. I hate it when it's 2 a.m. and I'm like dying and I really want to pay attention, but my brain is just not with me anymore. Some people get over that like more easily. I struggle.
Right.
But it is what it is. Such is life. And actually, like you said, I think it's a pretty sneaky card.
I think we could have fun. I think it's funny because Fortaleza last time was
the
so
matchups
fun.
are really good.
It'd be wild if we end up getting something like that crazy. Yeah, the matchups are fun. So,
Yep.
All right. Well, Cold Coffee again. He's gonna edit this all together, and then he's gonna go to vacation. He's going to London, by the way, for vacation, and then leaving before the fights start.
That's how badly he wants to
Jackass
avoid
scheduled
it.
a vacation that screwed him out of 2 fight weeks. Bastard. Well, we're going to hook up over there. My birthday actually next Wednesday, I think. It was when I landed, March 15th. I'll be 39 years old, inching up on 40. Jesus Christ, where does the time go? Yeah, I'm going to go drink to that. In the meantime, thanks for listening.